Time for the business news now on the programme, and Cole Stangler from the Business Desk is with me. Cole, you're starting, aren't you, with a look at the push to recruit more nurses in France. Now, of course, this is just as pressure heats up because of COVID-19 and that second wave.
That's right, Stuart. The government extended wage hikes this fall and is planning another round before the end of the year. It's designed, at least in part, to attract more workers into the public health sector, which has struggled in recent years to compete for new recruits with the private sector. Many posts in hospitals still remain vacant, and at an especially inopportune time. Solange Mougin takes a closer look at the labor shortage and how authorities are trying to fix it.
Insufficient budgets, low wages, not enough personnel, difficult working conditions that hospital staff have been raising alarm bells about for years. But the coronavirus pandemic created public outrage. And this summer, the government promised wage increases for nurses and hospital staff. An additional €90 a month was rolled out this fall, and another similar raise is planned before the year's end. But nurses are still leaving. Changing careers or moving to private hospitals. Nationally, 100,000 positions remain vacant, a third of them nurses.
Un des points faibles de la fonction publique était justement les grilles salariales. C'est vrai que pour un jeune diplômé, quand on voit ce que peut proposer une structure privée par rapport à ce que nous, on leur proposait sur un premier poste, il y avait un écart. Donc effectivement, la revalorisation des salaires va être un argument et un point positif pour nous.
Bonjour!
At 22, this nurse is just out of school. She's one of the new recruits at the Nemours Hospital, where the gross base salary is €1,600 a month.
C'est toujours bon à prendre ces 90 € en plus.
One of the issues raised in negotiations this summer was a lack of training programs. More hospital beds are needed, but so too are personnel to watch over the patients.
Ils font un travail qui est énorme, qui est dur. Et je pense que le salaire, il ne vaut pas le quart de ce qu'elles font.
With staff still spread thin, nurses say their working conditions remain incredibly difficult. And the coronavirus pandemic, they say, has made that abundantly clear.
Let's take a look now at some of Tuesday's trading action. Major European indexes in negative territory to start the day. You can see here the FTSE in London down 0.15%, the DAX over in Frankfurt down around 0.4%. The CAC 40 here in Paris just around the flat line. A mixed bag on the major Asian indexes. Meanwhile, the Nikkei down just over 0.4%. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong also down 0.1%. Gains, though, in Shanghai and in Seoul.
And of course, Cole, one of the big issues really weighing on investors is that apparent lack of progress in those stimulus talks in the US.
That's right. You still have disagreements between Democrats and Republicans. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has said today is the deadline to reach a deal before next month's election. She met with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin on Monday, with the two saying afterwards that, quote, they continued to narrow their differences. The House's $2.2 trillion plan is slightly more than what the White House has backed. Any deal, though, still needs to get through the Republican-controlled Senate, where opposition to further stimulus has been the most pronounced.
Now then, the world's largest asset manager is reporting a big spike even in profits.
That's right, Stuart. UBS reported a net income, of 1.8 billion euros for the 3 months ending in September. That's up a staggering 99% from the same period last year, beating analyst expectations. The group's investment bank division performed especially well amid heavy turnover in global markets, as did its wealth management wing. The Swiss bank called the earnings its best third-quarter results in a decade.
And finally, from Cole, the US and Brazil, they're kind of boosting trade and investment ties.
That's right. The countries held a virtual summit on Monday, hosted by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It featured an appearance from U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who stressed the importance of reducing the country's dependency on China. And while it's not a full-fledged free trade agreement, the countries did agree to a string of mini deals. They aim to increase trade, strengthen regulatory practices, and crack down on corruption. All welcome news for Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. Take a listen.
In the last year and a half, together with President Donald Trump, we've brought the relationship between Brazil and the United States to its best moment ever. And with this agreement, we have inaugurated a new stage in the relationship between the two largest economies and democracies of our hemisphere. This triple package will reduce bureaucracy and bring even more growth to bilateral trade, with beneficial effects as well for the flow of investment.
Now, Stuart, this has been a strategy of the Trump administration. These mini deals, they've had them with Japan, with China. They also have attracted criticism by some saying that they don't go far enough, that it's better to have more comprehensive, full-fledged free trade agreements.
OK, we'll see what happens with this one then with Brazil. Thank you very much, Cole, with the business news on France 24.